Another area of problematic behavior and functioning for individuals along the autistic spectrum is what we call deficits in executive functioning. Now, part of what we all take for granted is our ability to understand that life unfolds in a sequential manner, that one can make plans and carry it through in a judicious manner, that one can regulate one's impulses and response to environmental stimuli, that one can attend to things, for a sustained period of time. But individuals who have difficulty in executive functioning cannot really, on a regular basis, perform any of those tasks. So imagine what it's like to feel internally organized if you can't sequence behavior, if you experience activities as discrete segments that aren't necessarily interrelated with one another, if you cannot regulate yourself and your thinking and you move from one topic to another without successfully completing tasks, you can see how a difficulty in this domain contributes with problems in adaptive behavior, which really means being able to use your skills in a practical and functional way to move through the world successfully. Another deficit that we begin to recognize, there's a large group of children with autism who have excellent language development. For those children who show clear delays in language from the very beginning, obviously the initial task is to work on language development with them, and for some children that requires intensive intervention. There is a large group of children along the autistic spectrum who don't display with language difficulties or delay, and in fact some of these children have very mature language development that goes well beyond their peers of their chronological age. But these children, no matter what kind of vocabulary they acquire, have deficits in what we call pragmatic language. Once again, pragmatics relates to the earlier concepts I've been describing to you. Pragmatic language requires the kind of skills that allows you to sustain social discourse with others. It allows you to stay on topic. It allows you to not interrupt others. It allows you to understand when it's time to contribute to a topic. It allows you to take turns. It allows you to understand non-literal language and utilize body language to interpret people's nonverbal cues and understanding. And basically, it allows you to utilize an understanding of others so that you can communicate with them in a way that is not just one-sided. Now, very often, individuals with autism who have adequate language when they're very young, their language is mostly what we call instrumental in nature. And what instrumental nature really involves is speaking for a purpose. You're able to make requests, you're able to get what you want through the utilization of words. But you don't have descriptive speech, you don't have narrative speech, and you lack these pragmatic language skills that I've described that really allow you to chit-chat, to take an interest in others, and to be able to sustain conversation with multiple turn-taking so that people are satisfied and know that you're really interested in them rather than simply conveying information of your own. Another domain of difficulty that individuals with autism often present with is something we call stimulus overselectivity, which really is a form of overfocus. Many people with autism, the way their perceptual and meaning apparatus is established is that they focus on one issue at a time and they don't necessarily see things in the broader context and how they're interrelated to other things. So if you have someone who's over-focusing and gets stuck or focuses on details that other people don't find of significance, you could see that, number one, they can stay tuned out and don't know when to redirect or shift their attention to be engaged in what other people are participating in. But you could also see that that overfocus relates to being further removed from others and not paying attention to a lot of the social and physical environmental cues that are going around an individual. Okay? Another issue that's of great significance for individuals with autism, difficulties related to transfer and generalization. One of the things that people have discovered is most problematic is that individuals with autism, even as the result of effective intervention, are able to learn a skill in one setting, but they're unable to use it in another setting. Once again, it's directly related to the fact that they truncate their experience and break it up into small, discrete pieces. And imagine what it's like not to see your life as an organic flow of one incident leading to another and being able to understand the relationship between what you did previously and what you're choosing to do now or maybe planning to do for the future. So these problems in generalization make it very, very difficult for individuals with autism, because no matter how they build up their skill repertoire, very often these skills are acquired in a static manner and they aren't able to use it dynamically in novel or unfamiliar situations. So this is something that makes intervention and the broad extension of individuals' behavioral repertoire very difficult, and accounts for the long-term intervention procedures that most individuals with autism undergo, during the course of their lifetime. Another factor that is very significant is something that we call motor and sensory related issues. Right now, as I'm talking, I can hear the air conditioning unit going on in the background. But basically what I do, since I can recognize that that's the air conditioning, I habituate to that, and after a while I tune it out so that it's not a disruptive element in this environment as I'm speaking to you. Imagine what it's like to have such a finely tuned nervous system so that even hearing that sound would be distracting as I was attempting to speak to you, or for your part, while you're sitting there as an audience trying to attend, hopefully, to what I'm saying to you. So individuals who have sensory-related issues have difficulty attending, primarily, number one, as I mentioned earlier, because they may not think what others value or find important is worthwhile attending to, but also because they aren't comfortable. One of the things that occurs naturally throughout the course of infancy and child development is individuals' nervous systems mature, and as a result of that maturity, our nervous system becomes familiar and equipped to deal with a wide variety of sounds, tastes, touches, and what we see visually. If you are continually impinged upon, imagine how hard it is when people want to engage you to really begin to attend to the social interaction which serves as a core for most of our daily lives. So if you cannot filter out stimuli, then it's very, very difficult to be present and to be comfortable as you direct yourself toward others or even tasks that don't involve other individuals. So you could see that has a direct impact on both one's self-regulation, being able to stay in a variety of physical environments, or the internal organization that you bring that allows you to use your skills and understanding with anything that life happens to bring your way. So a lot of individuals with autism present with what we call hyperacuity. They're very sensitive to sounds. A lot of little children, if they're having trouble with a vacuum cleaner in the house or a hair dryer or a lawnmower outside, or they cringe every time a motorcycle drives by on the street, those individuals have hyperacuity and they cannot lower their threshold for dealing with extraneous sounds. Imagine what it's like if you have tactile defensiveness, and what it's like to come into the world as an infant who, instead of being calmed and soothed through the kind touch of a caregiver, becomes agitated and upset because instead of feeling comfortable with touch, one feels hurt and anguished. These are some ways that you can see early on in life it makes it very difficult for individuals to want to be responsive and engage in the world of others. Another thing that is typically difficult for individuals with autism are problems in dealing with change and transitions. Going back to what I discussed earlier in relation to theory of mind, if you cannot predict others, if you cannot predict what to expect from social situations, the safest strategy is to stay put, not to go to anywhere familiar, not to explore toys in a new way or try new play materials, and really to perceive new people and new situations as a potential threat that's disruptive to your sense of well-being. And so what initially occurs in autism is that people have a neurological tendency to want to move towards sameness and repetitive behavior, and yet imagine how that gets compounded for individuals who aren't comfortable moving freely throughout their home or their community and developing a broader range of experience within which they feel comfortable.